Barcode revolution. How a beach doodle changed shopping forever. Beep. It's a sound you hear dozens of times during every shopping trip. So commonplace that we barely notice it anymore. But behind that simple beep is an innovation that transformed global commerce and saved businesses billions of dollars. Today, we're diving into the fascinating history of the barcode, the unassuming pattern of lines that revolutionized how we buy and sell just about everything. Imagine a time when every item in a grocery store had to be individually price-marked, when inventory was counted by hand, and when checking out meant a cashier had to manually enter every price. This was shopping reality, until surprisingly recently. The barcode didn't just make shopping faster, it fundamentally changed retail economics, supply chain management, and data collection in ways its inventors could hardly have imagined. Our story begins in 1948 with a conversation between two Drexel Institute of Technology graduate students. Bernard Silver overheard the president of a local food chain talking to a dean about the industry's desperate need for an automated checkout system. Silver mentioned this conversation to his friend Norman Joseph Woodland, and the seed of an idea was planted. Woodland became obsessed with solving this problem. He dropped out of graduate school, moved to his grandfather's apartment in Florida, and devoted himself to finding a solution. The breakthrough came, according to legend, while Woodland was sitting on Miami Beach. Drawing inspiration from Morse code, he absent-mindedly dragged his fingers through the sand, creating a series of parallel lines of varying widths. I just extended the dots and dashes downward and made narrow lines and wide lines out of them, Woodland later recalled. This beach doodle evolved into the first barcode concept, though circular rather than rectangular, resembling a bull's-eye target. In 1949, Woodland and Silver filed patent Summertooth 612 Synard 94 for a classifying apparatus and method. Their original design used ultraviolet ink patterns that would be invisible to shoppers but could be detected by scanners. When their patent was granted in 1952, it represented a remarkable achievement, but one that was decades ahead of its time. The technology to make it commercially viable simply didn't exist yet. In what would later prove a fateful decision, Woodland and Silver sold their patent to Philco for $15,000 in 1962, equivalent to about $135,000 today. While a decent sum, it was a fraction of what the technology would eventually be worth. By the time barcodes became standard in retail, the original patent had expired, and Woodland never received royalties for his invention. The transformation from interesting concept to universal standard was slow and complicated. By the late 1960s, with supermarkets expanding rapidly, the industry was desperate for a solution to checkout bottlenecks and inventory management challenges. The National Association of Food Chains established a committee to develop an industry-wide coding system, and several companies began competing to create the winning standard. The technological pieces were finally falling into place. Lasers, invented in 1960, provided a reliable way to read barcode markings. The development of integrated circuits and mini-computers meant the processing power needed to decode barcodes was becoming affordable. By 1970, several companies were working on competing barcode systems. In 1973, after evaluating many proposals, the grocery industry selected what would become the Universal Product Code, UPC system we still use today. The familiar rectangular design was chosen over Woodland's original bull's-eye pattern, primarily because the printing technology of the time had difficulty reproducing the concentric circles consistently. The first UPC scanner was installed at Marsh's Supermarket in Troy, Ohio. At 8:01 a.m. on June 26, 1974, cashier Sharon Buchanan scanned the first commercial product bearing a UPC barcode, a 10-pack of Wrigley's Juicy Fruit Gum. That pack of gum is now displayed at the Smithsonian Institution's National Museum of American History, a testament to its significance in retail history. The system's adoption wasn't immediate. Supermarkets had to invest in expensive scanning equipment, and manufacturers had to redesign their packaging to include the new codes. Many retailers were skeptical about their return on investment, but as early adopters began reporting significant savings in labor costs and improved inventory accuracy, the tide turned. By 1984, just 10 years after that first scan, 33% of grocery stores had adopted barcode scanners. Today, it's virtually impossible to find a retail store without them. The universal adoption of UPC codes has created efficiencies worth billions of dollars annually, but the impact of barcodes extends far beyond grocery checkout lines. Today, barcodes are used in hospitals to reduce medication errors and track patient information. They're essential in manufacturing to track parts and manage production. They're crucial in transportation and logistics, enabling the tracking of packages from warehouse to doorstep. Libraries use them to manage book circulation. Even wristbands at concerts and theme parks often incorporate barcode technology. The technology has evolved considerably since Woodland's Beach Doodle. Two-dimensional barcodes, like QR codes, can store significantly more information than traditional UPCs. RFID tags, which can be read without a direct line of sight, represent the next generation of the technology. Let's pause to consider some fascinating facts about barcodes that most people don't know. The iconic beep we associate with barcode scanning isn't actually necessary for the technology to work. It was added as an auditory confirmation that the scan was successful, and quickly became so associated with the process that it remained even as the technology improved. The UPC barcode design includes specific patterns at the beginning, middle, and end that help the scanner determine which way the code is oriented. This means barcodes can be scanned in any direction. The digits printed below a UPC barcode aren't just for human readers if the scan fails. The last digit is actually a check digit calculated from the preceding numbers using a mathematical formula. If the scanner reads a code that doesn't match this check digit, it knows there's been an error. The width of a barcode is precisely determined. A standard UPC-A barcode should be 1.469 inches wide by 1.02 inches high, ensuring it can be reliably scanned by standard equipment. Early opposition to barcodes came from some religious groups, who associated the technology with the mark of the beast, mentioned in biblical prophecy. Some even claimed that the number 666 was encoded in the UPC system's guard bars. Let's return to the human story behind this innovation. Joseph Woodland, the principal inventor, ultimately did receive recognition for his work, even if the financial rewards were limited. In 1992, he received the National Medal of Technology from President George H.W. Bush for his contribution, and in 2011, he was inducted into the National Inventors Hall of Fame. Woodland died in 2012 at the age of 91. Having lived to see his invention become one of the most ubiquitous technologies on the planet. The barcode story exemplifies several important themes in innovation history. First, it shows the often significant gap between invention and widespread implementation. Woodland's concept emerged in 1949, but it took 25 years to become commercially viable. Second, it highlights how innovations often require multiple technological advances to reach their potential. The barcode needed lasers, computers, and digital networks to fulfill its promise. Third, it demonstrates that standardization, while sometimes contentious and complex, is crucial for technologies that require universal adoption. Finally, it reminds us that some of the most transformative innovations are virtually invisible to those who benefit from them. Most shoppers never think about the complex system behind that simple beep, yet it has fundamentally changed their shopping experience. Today, it's estimated that 5 billion barcode scans occur daily worldwide. The system has become so integral to commerce that a temporary scanner outage can bring a business to a standstill. The next time you hear that familiar beep at the checkout counter, take a moment to appreciate the elegant simplicity of those black and white lines. They represent a remarkable journey from a beach doodle to global standard, an innovation that changed how the world shops, tracks, and trades. What everyday technology do you think we'll take for granted in the future? What innovations are happening right now that might seem as revolutionary as the barcode in 50 years? The answers might be hiding in plain sight, just like those parallel lines on everything we buy. Thank you for watching this exploration of barcode beginnings. If you found this video interesting, please like, subscribe, and share to help others discover the fascinating stories behind everyday innovations. Until next time, I'll see you in the checkout line.